He'd always spent time in Newport Beach, even as a young boy. In fact, this is where he hurt his shoulder when he was a football player at USC and lost his football scholarship, which made him go to Fox Studios and get a job as a prop man's assistant, which led to his, career. So right after I was born, he bought a house down here in Newport Beach, and we moved directly here. Newport at that time, in 63 and 64, was a smaller, beach/fishing town. I mean, the Cannery restaurant at that time was actually a cannery. It was quiet. It was away from Hollywood. Our life was basically small town beach life. The neighborhood that we lived in was, my friends down the street, his mother was a single mom and a dental hygienist, and she lived, within a couple blocks of John Wayne. So at that time, even though today it's very fancy and very expensive and very posh, at that time it was much more low key. So, our life, or my life as a boy with my dad, was really built around time on the Wild Goose, and then time on location. So, we would be home for, say, 3 months a year, but the other 6 months we may spend 3 months down in Mexico filming a project for him, and then we'd go directly to the Wild Goose. If it was winter, it'd be in Mexico, and if it was summer, it'd be in British Columbia or Alaska. So, you have that lifestyle, and then you come back home to the beach, and it was just not typical Hollywood at all. He drove a station wagon. We went to Whitefront, which was like an early big box retailer. Sears, we decorated the house for Christmas, for Halloween. We just had like boxes and cases of candy for kids on Halloween. There weren't bodyguards, there weren't paparazzi. He answered the phone, he answered the door. We got an unusually large amount of mail, but our life was pretty normal for having such a, iconic, legendary father. He was born in Iowa. His father had a lung condition. He said, go to California. They moved to the high desert. Whatever business venture they did in the high desert didn't work out, and they ended up in Glendale, and that's where my father went to high school. He excelled in sports and ended up going to the University of Southern California, but on his off time, he loved the beach. And in those days, they used to come down to the pavilion because they'd have dances on the weekends in the pavilion. And he started coming down here when he was in high school. So in the early 20s, he'd be coming down to the beach and hanging out. And so he always maintained a love of the area. So he had a long history himself, starting from his high school years down here. When my father died, he asked his family if they would use his name to help the doctors to fight cancer. So we did. We established a John Wayne Cancer Foundation. It's really, in my opinion, it's my father's greatest legacy, is helping people who are sick. So everything we do at John Wayne Enterprises goes to support the work of the Cancer Foundation. You can go to teamduke.org. And if anybody has any issues, they are welcome to call us here at the office. But the starting point is www.teamduke.org.